Hey everyone, and welcome. Susan Smith here. This is a very informal, up-close sort of camera angle today. My topic today is zippered leaders. Well, leaders, but zippered ones and how I've attached mine. And I have finagled all over the place, fiddled around today, trying to figure out what the best way is to try and show you this stuff. But let me get my Instagram people in before I dive too much into my talking. And like I said, you're going to get funny angles today, and I'm sorry about that. And we've got a frozen camera already. One sec, we'll get things fixed. There you see me in the computer camera. Instagram's not wanting to go live. Let's just see. Okay, one camera's working again. Instagram will not respond to go live. Well, it's just not responding. So it looks like we're on Facebook and YouTube today. Okay, now you get my face again. A few of you are chiming in. Yeah, you see the frozen picture already. I fixed that. Okay, I'll get as close as I can for chatting for a moment first, and then we'll step back a little bit and look at some other things. I'm Susan. You're in my studio, Stitched by Susan. All the month of April, and we're nearly at the end, I've been coming to you live each day on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and I think we've managed all three every day until today. And let me just try bumping that go live button on Instagram one more time, fingers crossed. Nope, not happening. Okay, one sec, I'll be right back. Okay, we'll leave that alone. Talking though each day just about topics that relate to machine quilting, pretty practical topics because that's kind of who I am, pulling back the curtain a little bit on my studio and some of my setup and some of maybe my challenging quilts and how I handle different things and what have you. So a question that has been brought up many times is how my leaders are attached to my machine, because I attach my quilts a little differently than some long arm manufacturers recommend, including Bernina, which is the brand of machine that I currently have. And I like to float my quilt tops, meaning, and this was an earlier episode, way early in the month, meaning they're laid on my work surface but just hanging or floating down the front. The front edge of the quilt is not ever attached or rolled up. So what does that mean in terms of how the leaders are arranged on the frame or how it rolls up directionally and that sort of thing? So we're going to talk about that today. And we'll talk a little bit too about zippered leaders and what are they and what is the advantage of them. So let's see. Just checking the comments just to make sure. And I know it's such an awkward thing when I'm looking at my computer. I'm sorry. It's just a bit of a process, right? I am limited when I'm broadcasting to all these formats. My camera has to be wired in, which is why we sometimes have the connection difficulty and it freezes for whatever reason. There's a mess up in that connection. So that limited me today in how far away I can go with my camera. I was hoping to kind of show you the long view of the end of my long arm, and I couldn't make that work. I tried and tried. But for those of you who are using Bernina's, you'll have the same instructional book that I have on page 56. And for those of you that have other brands, look this up in your book too, because I'm sure most of them will have this type of diagram that suggests how to load your leaders so that you know which direction they spin in and how to arrange the top and the backing and so forth. So mine are directionally the same. Again, this won't do you a ton of good because it looks like it's in a mirror, but look at your manual and know that mine are loaded the same way with this difference. I've got the take-up roller and what would be the backing one, what would be the top one, and I attach my backing to it, and I don't have any leader on the third one. So on this bar that is right in front of me, and now I'm going to turn my camera, so bear with me, it's going to joggle a bit so you see a bit of a view of the long arm. Let's see how that works. A little bit. So this bar that's right in front of me now, this belly bar, I don't have any leader attached to that. I've just got my backing leader flowing over it. And now you can see a little bit what my take-up leader looks like. Let's get my hand where you can see it. If I move my makeshift desk a little bit further, you might be able to see me, almost. This leader too, this is where the quilt that is finished rolls up, right? And we're not going to talk tons and tons about that, but just know that when I am actually doing a quilt, this leader goes underneath this dead bar that you're seeing along here. Gosh, you can hardly see it. I'm so sorry. I tried so hard to get this figured out. Maybe if I lower my camera a little bit more. There, you're just seeing that chrome dead bar or aluminum. But mainly what we wanted to talk about was the zippered leader. So in a lot of my live and unscripted episodes, I do talk about the dead bar or how I take up the quilt, and you can see it there. But this is the cool part I wanted to show you today. Right on the front of my leader is this zippered portion. And what that means is that when I've got a quilt loaded on here, and for some reason I want to take that quilt off and work on something else in between times, I can literally just leave the quilt pinned or red snappered or in whatever way it's attached. I can leave it right on there and zip the whole thing off. And then I have another set of zippered leaders, do you see? And I zip these on and load the new project and quilt on that. When it's done, take it off. And my number one quilt is as easy as literally starting this big zipper and zipping it back on. There's one on each end, right? One on each leader, and I'm going to move the camera back again so I don't have to angle so weirdly. Bear with me while I joggle all about. There we go. There's a zippered leader on each end, the bottom and the top, so your quilt does not shift at all. You don't have to like recenter or reposition it. When you zip it on, it's in exactly the same position. Those zippers are an absolute lifesaver if you ever need to swap like that. So it comes in handy, for example, when you've got a detailed custom quilt that you're working on that maybe spans some time, maybe days or even weeks. And in between, you want to quickly do a baby gift, right? You can zip that custom quilt off, zip your little baby quilt on, or a new set of leaders, and away you go and quilt it, and then pull it off and zip your quilt number one back on again. Super handy. So let's pull my table back over so that my back's not practically turned to you and have a look at comments. Okay, bear with me. If you're enjoying these episodes, and particularly today, let's have a thumbs up. I would love that. Joelle, off work this morning so I can watch live. Darlene, Lisa, Mona, excuse me if I'm breathing heavy. Jean, Nancy, Carol Ann, sure do appreciate all your efforts, and Mr. Producer too. Kirsten from Germany, faithful watcher. Okay, no questions are coming in so far. Feel free to chime some in if you have them. I wanted to talk just a tiny bit more about that zipping off and zipping back on, because it is a little bit of a process to zip it back on. I feel like it's a two-woman or a two-man process, or maybe you've got a Mr. Producer of your own. That's your quilt holder-upper for photographs. He would be great in this application too, or kids or whatever. When you do go to roll it back on, especially if it's a custom quilt and it's got some intricate quilting that's wanting to pull in, the most critical thing is the portion of the quilt that's already been quilted. You've kind of got to pull that back out to flat and smooth size. It's going to want to roll up, with that tight feel that it gets when you release it off the tension of the long arm rails. So you've kind of got to put that tension back in it. So that's kind of one beware. Mary Ellen is asking, so you're using zippered leaders and the red snapper. Correct, Mary Ellen. And here's the thing, my leaders, they came with a hem in them that I put the red snapper in. When I zip my existing leaders off, the red snappers go with them. So if I want red snappers on my second set, I would have to have another set of red snappers. So I very recently acquired a set actually from a viewer who didn't care for them and made me a deal. And so now I have a second set. But up till now, I've just unloaded my red snappers, pinned my new quilt on because it's usually a smaller, quicker project, pinned it on and finished it up. Away I go, load my red snappers back up. Does that make sense? Because the snappers are within the hem of the leader and they're pinched in there, so you can't unpinch them and change them. Do you know what I mean? That would unload your quilt altogether. You don't want to do that. Lynn is asking, do you machine base the quilt to the zippered leader? You absolutely could, Lynn. I don't. I have red snappers on my one set of zippers, and currently I've been pinning to the other set, but I do have another set of snappers now that I'm going to load into this pair of leaders. Bit of a pain to store, but there it is. Sharon is asking, are your zippered leaders homemade or purchased? Mine happen to be purchased. I do know people who have made them. These are canvas, but clearly you can buy canvas and you can buy zippers, so you can make them. They're not inexpensive to buy, but 2 sets came with my machine, and that's been enough for me. I might add here, I do know other quilters who keep multiple sets. I know quilters who have a business. I was listening to one lady, a podcast with her the other day, and she keeps a dozen sets of them. And she literally preloads kind of her week's worth of quilts, right? And she just zips them on and quilts them and moves on, and that's part of her intake process. I haven't done that, but that's an option. I do know one option that I think is absolutely genius. I have a friend locally who has her quilting studio in like a converted church, so super, super tall ceilings. So she set up a pulley system in that ceiling with, I can't remember what the brace was, but she put a zippered leader on it, and she uses it for pictures. So she zips her quilt off the long arm frame, zips it onto that leader, cranks it up with the pulley, and it's all hanging beautifully and takes her photographs that way. So if you have space like that, it's kind of genius. Kathy Ann is saying, my belly bar leader is attached with a Velcro strip. I can take off my leader, but should I take off the Velcro strip? I want to use the magnets. I'm not sure. I do have to wonder if the magnets will hold through the Velcro strip. So my leaders, my original leaders, and this, by the way, is not really the leader. It's just the zippered end that attaches to the leader. But my initial leader is attached to my rails with like wide, 2-inch wide, super sticky, double-sided tape. That's how mine are attached. I have seen them done with Velcro, but I've never used that, so I'm not sure how that behaves with the magnets. I'm sorry, I can't really answer that for you. I do know that not all quilting machines come with zippered leaders. Sometimes it's an add-on option. In some machines, it seems like the more almost industrial machines, it usually comes with them as a kind of little bonus that you get. I'm not positive about that. So I'm not entirely sure what your leader might look like, right? My machines have always come with zippered leaders and one spare. Sue, how do you make sure you have zippers attached so the quilt is square on the frame? Well, the thing is, Sue, your zippers, one of 2 ways. For me, my zippers are on the frame when I initially attach the quilt. So my quilt is sort of squared up. You know my method of rolling it on straight and attaching it at the other end. When I take my zippers off at that point and put them back on, they go on in exactly the same place. The teeth match up. That, you know, you start the zipper like you would on the front of your coat, so it matches what I had before. If you're preloading these leaders to then zip onto your quilt frame, then you have to center it, right? If you're not loading it while on the frame, you have to have center markings on your leaders, center markings on your backing, and you have to do the job of centering that. So that's up to you which way you want to approach it. Sally, I wanted to use magnets, but I have a pacemaker. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with them. I'm glad you thought of that because I do think the magnetic bars that I use are quite strong magnets for sure. Let's just see if there are more questions. Mary Ellen, darn, I sold my zippers because I love the red snapper. I mean, you can always acquire more. Homer purchased, we got that one. Machine based, we got that one. Just double checking if there's any other questions. Doesn't look like it. I'm back at the greetings. Okay, I'll stay on for just a minute more to see if more questions come in. While we wait for that, let me tell you just briefly, enrollment is open this week for my Freehand Quilting Masterclass. So if you're new to my world, let me quickly tell you, my style of quilting is very much home use. I call them couch quilts. Gifts for babies, for young couples, for elderly parents, for foster kids, whatever. So I like to do edge-to-edge quilting freehand. And it's utilitarian in the sense that it's edge-to-edge, it's not custom, but I like to make it beautiful. So my Freehand Quilting Masterclass is all about building, number one, a repertoire of lovely designs that will suit any taste and any age, and number two, teaching you how I devised those designs, how they grew and evolved, and how you can do the same thing with your own ideas. You can take my designs and tweak them to make them your own. You can take your own brand new ideas and create quilting designs from them. It's intended to really be a base and a springboard for you to create your own original freehand work. So enrollment for that course is open all of this week. It is a large course. I don't know for sure how many hours of teaching because we're still in the process of editing videos. We've re-recorded all of the videos in the masterclass. Sharp new camera work, crisp new lines, professional editor, so fingers crossed that all comes together. But there are quite a few hours of instruction. There are 6 modules. The first one drops next Monday, May the 6th. And then each week a new module comes out till you have them all. They are all pre-recorded, so you can watch them whenever and wherever you like. And then each week I'll be hosting a live Zoom session kind of in support of this, where you can come and ask any questions you like about the material in question. There are mostly new students in those Zoom sessions, but a certain number of the alumni from last year is invited as well, so you get some experienced quilters in there too, which is kind of fun. So that's kind of how that's rolling out. The course never expires. Once the modules are open to you, you have them for always. So if you don't have to keep up. There's really no intention that you can keep up and learn all the designs. You can't master them all in 6 weeks. So you take a little snippet out of each module and you take that design out for a spin and get comfortable with it, move on to the next one, and then in the weeks and months to come, you come back and learn some more designs. So Mary Ellen, I'm looking forward to your alumni Zoom meeting. When do you think it will start? The first one is the following week. So that must be about the 13th. Anyway, they're always on Tuesdays, and I alternate morning and evening because I have students from around the world. So that way, hopefully everybody can catch some of them at a reasonable hour of the day. That's my hope. Wanda McKella asked when the class begins. I answered that. So I think I've answered the questions. Do check out my website and some information on it. I have put a link in YouTube. There's a link in the description with some information and the registration form as well. If you go on any of my posts this week on Facebook or Instagram, you can comment FQM for Freehand Quilting Masterclass, and you'll get a little automatic link to my website page. I mean, the whole syllabus, what's in every module, frequently asked questions, my 14-day no-risk guarantee, all that stuff is in there. I won't go through it all with you here today. That would take a while, but you can read that all for yourself at your leisure. Do read through the FAQs to see if it answers some of your questions, but if you still have more, feel free to email me, susan@stitchedbysusan.com. So that enrollment stays through Friday. And Mary Ellen's asking, will they be recorded? Yes. The Zoom sessions are recorded and uploaded for students to view until my next batch of students comes in, so about 6 months of time. You can even send in your questions in advance if you can't be there live, and I can still answer them for you. So there's that. Nancy, you're such a sweetie. I got to put this up on the broadcast. If anyone's on the fence about taking the course, I would love to encourage you to take the course. It's great. Thank you for that, Nancy. Of course, I think so. Certainly, I and Mr. Producer too have put hundreds of hours into making this the best course we possibly can. I've tried to distill my quilting knowledge and give it to you concisely and without fluff, but also thoroughly and covering as many topics as I can to really give you a solid foundation for your freehand quilting. So, done my level best with that. All right, you guys, I'm going to nip off to do other things and get off this weird camera angle. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll be back again tomorrow and for several days into May as well. So look forward to seeing you again. Don't forget thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you know when I am coming live. Talk to you tomorrow.